Hi and welcome to this exciting session by Epic Games on using Unreal Engine and its entire ecosystem of tools for developers and support that we are providing to devs in the Indian region. This is the first time I think we're going to be actually talking in detail about how we can be using some of Unreal Engine's tools for mobile game development, and we'll also be showing you some of the exciting work that's coming from the region across both mobile and PC game development and cross-platform development using the ecosystem of what Epic Games brings to the fore. Epic's unique in the form that it not only builds its own games, including the incredibly popular Fortnite, but also Rocket League and Fall Guys, but also builds out the tools that we license to both non-games and game ecosystems. And the sheer quality of product that we are seeing, both in terms of the narratives, games, and the applications across industries, is really leaving us spellbound across the region. We have obviously Unreal Engine, which we license to other game devs, but we now have really cool sort of support systems as well, such as the Epic Games online services, the Epic Game Store, all of this in addition to a huge suite of creator tools, which we are hoping we can take you through. Our focus for Unreal Engine in this region is that we want to support you, whether it's an outsourced company or whether you're developing your own titles. We want to help and foster local developers to learn and use the tools that we have so carefully created, not just for our own use, but also for being used by close to about 50% of pretty much every next gen title is powered by Unreal Engine and its tools. And it's a tool that we have built by, it's a developer, as a developer ourselves, we have built it for ourselves, but for others as well. And in fact, towards that case, we are also offering a lot of free training in the region, and more details of that, I'm sure my colleagues will take you through as you be part of this presentation. To give you a quick summary of what all we'll be doing through this, we'll be walking you through sort of the entire ecosystem of our tools. We'll be actually doing some hands-on kind of deep dives with the technical team, but we'll also be talking a lot about the initiatives, right from training to Epic Mega Grants. And to walk you through this and more, I would love to hand it over to my colleague Saishri, who leads games for the Southeast Asia and the South Asia region. Over to you, Saishri.
Thanks, Samir. It's a pleasure to be here amongst the gaming community, and it's my privilege to take you all through what we do to support developers in this region. At Epic, we believe that our success depends on you, and we are dedicated to helping you achieve your goals. India has some amazing talent, and with the Unreal Engine and the Epic ecosystem, we do believe that some fabulous games can be made here. So let's just dive in. To support the developer community, we have a disruptive business model. We let creators download the Unreal Engine for free, and we give source code access. For us, developers and creators are essential. The more people create, the more our vision of an open and seamless digital space becomes a reality. We believe people should have the freedom to create, play, and learn in better ways. That extends to prioritizing our success even over our monetization. Because of our success on the game side, we make everything we build freely available so that everyone can benefit from the same advantages and capabilities that we do. For publishers, we waive off royalties on the first million USD, and after that take only 5% of gross revenue. Tech support. We are happy to support you on the tech side as you create your games on Unreal. In this region, we give free access to our Unreal Developer Network for 3 months. This is a ticketed system where you can post your queries and Epic's tech team will help you out. We also have a regional tech team now, which is focused on products in this region, and we are happy to help you if you want to start a new project or need help on an existing one. We also offer free training in this region, and this has been received very well in the last 1 year by developers. We have live online tutored classes that offer training from basics of Unreal to advanced modules. We also have set up virtual machines for your use to learn and master the Unreal Engine. And all you have to do is reach out to us and we'll be happy to facilitate it for you. We also have other opportunities through which we help our community. Epic Mega Grants, for example. It's a $100 million fund that, as we speak, is enabling creators to make their vision a reality, and with no strings attached. We are pleased to share that Epic Mega Grants has surpassed 60 million in total financial support, accelerating the work of nearly 1,000 talented teams and individuals across the planet. Later in the summit, some of our Mega Grant recipients from this region would be speaking about their work. Unreal Engine supports games of all genres and all platforms too. Fortnite, as an example, is one of the most successful games on the planet and is available across platforms, including mobile. Unreal is not only about great visual fidelity, but also can create great games across genres. From AAA titles to games made by small teams, we support them all. Let's take a look at some fabulous games created on Unreal.
Ready, set, let's go! Ready, set, let's go!
And here are some specific examples of mobile games from across geographies.
Give me a second to get ready, gotta. I need a moment, get steady, gotta. Wait up. I need a minute to jump on it, gotta. Hold on. I'm feeling good, it's getting messy, gotta.
And later today, you will also meet some developers, both large and small, who will share their mobile experiences with you.
Give me a second to get ready, gotta. I need a moment, getting steady, whoa. I need a minute to jump on it, gotta. I'm feeling good, it's getting messy, gotta.
And here are some more recent mobile examples. Kelabio is a unique anime shooter that has been built by a small team of around 50 people. NetEase's Racing Master is a best-in-class racer for iOS and Android. Decoherence, an action strategy game, is widely successful on Apple Arcade. Dragon Raja is an incredible fantasy MMORPG with stunning graphics. Wonderbox, the adventure maker, is also widely successful on Apple Arcade. Crystal of Atlan is an MMORPG built for mobile, both Android and iOS. And to give an example from India, Battlegrounds Mobile India is also built on Unreal Engine. I would also like to speak about the Epic ecosystem that is here to help you. Epic Online Services. Epic Online Services is an infrastructure to connect games and communities across all platforms. It provides the essential set of game and account services to build, deploy, and scale game backends. Battle tested at scale, the Epic Online Services are free to use for any game team at any size. Epic also supports its community with various tools. We already know about Unreal Engine. We also have Twinmotion that makes architectural visualization easy. Quixel Megascans has the largest library of photorealistic content in the world. In line with this, access to the entire Megascans library is completely free for Unreal Engine users, meaning there has never been a better time to join this open ecosystem made for all digital creators. Capturing Reality's software is able to reconstruct objects and scenes of any size from images or laser scans, yielding 3D scans with unparalleled accuracy and mesh quality at speeds many times faster than any competing software. ArtStation, where there are high-resolution images, videos, short clips, Marmoset and Sketchfab 3D scenes, 360 panos, and more. You can add this to your work and production experience. And Sketchfab that has tons of 3D models that you can use. The Epic Games Store. The Epic Games Store for games and apps has an industry-leading revenue share of 88-12. That's 88% in favor of creators. Unreal Engine game revenue is exempted from license royalties. There are 180 million active players worldwide on the Epic Games Store, and there are free games available every week on the store. Also, I would say do check out our closed beta registration for self-publishing tools, which is live now. Now that you have a fair idea of what Unreal does to support developers and the Epic ecosystem, I would like you to meet our tech evangelists, Jack and Arvind. Arvind Neelkantan is Evangelist India and ASEAN for Epic Games and specializes in games and empowering film and animation studios in using real-time tech. Prior to Epic, he was the head of technology Indian subcontinent for Unity Technologies. He has also worked in key roles at Disney and Nickelodeon. Jack Conlon serves as an evangelist and technical account manager for Epic Games in Southeast Asia and India. He specializes in the use of real-time technology for the media and entertainment as well as in visual arts. In his prior appointment, Jack was the lead of real-time development at S1T2, a digital creative technology company. They will talk more about why should you build your cross-platform games on UE, including for mobile. Over to you, Jack.
Thank you, Saishri, for those use cases. It's awesome to see how all these developers have been successful making amazing content with Unreal Engine. How did Unreal Engine help them get there? Well, that's what I intend to talk about with everyone. Hi everyone, I'm Jack Condon, and today's talk is going to be focused on high-level features inside the engine. We're going to pull them out, we're going to focus on them in order to make folks aware of how much Unreal can be doing for you. So if you're new to the engine, buckle up. And if you've been using the engine for a while, hopefully you can learn something from this speed through Unreal's heavy-hitting features. Our goal of this is to give a broad understanding to all the ways that you can utilize Unreal Engine to save time on development and to get your project shipping on time or iterating to create the best creative outcome you can. So, one thing I wanted to say before we dive in, Epic make games. We are not just a tools developer, but we're also a publisher of many games, including Fortnite. And all of the tools we develop, we're developing for you, but also for us. These are tools made for developers by developers. All of your frustrations, we've been there. And all the things that we do to try to make our lives easier and to try to make a game like, say, Fortnite, which has a constant cycle of releasing new content, which is amazing. All the things that make that optimal and even possible, we want to give to you because we want the same advantages that we've had for you to have. And that really is the ethos around our feature development here at Epic. So please buckle up for the show and enjoy this quick presentation of all the features that we're going to be diving into. So the first feature we're going to talk about is materials. Now, materials are a great one to start with. Materials have been around in the engine since 2006 and is one of the reasons that Unreal Engine is so much a pleasure for artists to work with. Essentially, materials in the editor are a way to describe surfaces. They're used for a lot more, but in the case of describing them, they can define the reflectiveness of an object, its bumps, it's how it's displaying its diffuse map, etc., etc. Ultimately, it is a visual node-based editor that we can use to describe how material looks. So here we can see what the material editor looks like. And you can see we're sampling textures, we're doing a little bit of mathematics, we're applying the normal map there, we're tiling the UVs. And all of these things ultimately end up being the output that you're seeing in the top left there. That's material. And this is amazing because all of this code, so to speak, compiles into HLSL. But I don't need to be a graphics programmer to do this. I just need to be able to play with the nodes, understand what I want, and get the look that I'm after as an artist and as creative. And that's what materials allow me to do. Now, I've also got material instances, which I can layer on top of materials. So I can offer up parameters inside of a material and then override them in a material instance to create customization, speed up my workflow, and describe how I want other artists to use the materials or the tools at this point that I've made. Now materials come with 10 shading models: unlit, lit, subsurface, skin, clear coat, useful for cars, hair, cloth, and eye. And all of these things give developers a lot of options to actually do what they need to do. Unreal also has an incredible post-processing stack that allows us to apply things like eye adaptation, the filmic tone mapper, LUTs, depth of field, screen space reflections, and a lot more to get the visual that we want of our scene. But not only that, we can apply our own materials to the post-processing stack. And this allows us to implement really advanced features like sobel edges or cell shading or anything else. And then we can share those materials on other projects or on the marketplace. So it's incredibly customizable and it's fully inbuilt into the engine. Post-processing can be applied in volumes that blend together. So as we rise up to a big, nice view on a cliff, we might have more lens flare come in. Or it can be applied to the camera, or our eyes, so to speak, and applied to the character itself. So why are materials and post-processing so helpful to developers the way they're implemented in Unreal? And this really comes down to the fact that artists are able to get the look that they're after quickly. They're able to iterate with visual tools for a visual medium in order to deliver what they're trying to, the visual quality that they're trying to get. And in pre-production, this means you can work incredibly fast and loose. And then in production, you're able to tighten that up if you have to, tighten up things like how expensive your instructions are. And with the Material Graph Editor, you have all that information available. You're able to see your instructions. And the reality is that graphics programmers are in short supply in India and the whole world. So by allowing a feature that artists can use for an artistic output, you're putting less pressure on programmers so they can focus on gameplay features while artists can focus on art. It makes sense. And with so many material shading models, it means that you have more options, which means ultimately less dev turnaround. And I want to say again that materials have been around since 2006. This is a battle-tested methodology that has produced incredible artists and art. And the reason I say it makes incredible artists is that I find that when people are new to the Material Editor, maybe they've never touched shader code. But a year or two into using the Material Editor, all of a sudden they're phenomenal tech artists. And I think that goes to show how important and amazing this UX flow is. So Chunk Downloader can be enabled as a plugin and essentially enables us to mount chunks. So when I say chunks, I mean large components of our game, from downloaded files after we download the game. This is great for like an app store type situation where we want to keep our game as small as possible. They can load it up, maybe they can start playing the game, but in the background we start downloading more data, more levels, and we can keep our original file size quite low, but then have them download the game in the background and while they play, and it's going to minimize that initial load for the user. It's really annoying when you're doing UX testing for your game and it's on your computer, you're building it on your computer, but you have to keep doing builds onto a phone or something like that to test it. Well, the Unreal Remote 2 lets you stream your computer's screen onto your phone, and then you're able to pass in your touch input back into the computer. So you're able to diagnose UX issues on a touch screen, but not actually have to build onto that device and iterate really quickly, which is really powerful. Split screen, which is just built into the editor. So all we need to do to get split screen to work out is add a player, enable split screen in our project settings, which we're going to do here, and click play, and here we go. Boom, split screen. Done like that. So if you're making a couch co-op game, Unreal has you covered, and you can see you can add more players in there and it just works. The multi-user editor, a really exciting tool. Exciting in that it changes the complete way that you're able to work with your colleagues. The multi-user editor allows multiple people to log into the same editor session, and level design a world together. Now, at the surface, this just means that you can collaborate really efficiently on the same level, deciding where, where the pencil case goes on a table, where the books go. Oh no, they're going to be on their side. But actually, it does so much more. It is a place where you can have meetings inside of VR and actually talk about the game and talk about the levels and what they mean and kind of conceptualize things the way your players would see them all at once. And this is huge in terms of how we communicate and understand our games. And I think that we're going to get to see a lot of exciting use cases outside of multi-user editors. So we've had Cascade particle system for a long time. It is our legacy system and is well loved. And it is well loved because it is truly battle tested. It's been in many AAA titles and AA titles. It looks incredible for explosions, for smoke, for gas fires, for magical abilities. In a lot of ways, it covers all the things that a particle system needs to be. And the way we make these effects with Cascade is we apply these pre-made modules, things like orbit, things like gravity, for instance, drag, all of these different parameters we put into a stack, and ultimately we create our particle effect. I'm sure you guys are familiar with this traditional way of working. But Niagara is our new particle system, which is really exciting because it's very similar. We drag our modules into a stack that define our effect, and it has advanced things like Cascade as well, like events, so we can do event notifiers and things to create more advanced particle effects. But these modules are built from visual code, okay? Just like our material graph and our blueprint editor, you can manipulate these modules or make your own or manipulate them to do new things. And this means that we've created a particle scripting tool to allow VFX artists endless control. So Niagara runs on its own virtual machine on the CPU, or you're able to compile it to HLSL and can be ran on the GPU. And you can switch between CPU and GPU with a click of the button inside the editor. It also, and excitingly, has the ability to be deterministic, even on the GPU, which is great for animation playback, or where we really need to sync things up perfectly. So this is what Niagara looks like, and we can see that stack. You've got things like drag and curl noise, and other exciting things that you've got in the particle editor. But if I was going to double click any of these, we'd see that we have these nodes that we're able to actually input values and output other values, ultimately defining how our particle is going to look and behave. And that means that we can do really exciting things, not just complex effects, but we're actually able to do what we call sim stages, where this particle effect is actually running a fluid sim, and then it's writing that information to a render target. And this essentially is giving artists the ability to run compute shaders, essentially a compute shader where we're able to offload complex problems to the GPU and then have them read in later when that problem is solved, or constantly solved in this case, which is really, really exciting because we're able, the sky's the limits when we come up with all the advanced behaviors that we're able to give. So this is all really exciting, but you might not be making a sim stage for your game. But ultimately, all the tools in Niagara helps speed up your development. As you build modules out, you can share them with colleagues in other projects. It is a modular pipeline built to allow you customization of the way you work. And what this means is that it doesn't matter what you're doing, we have been able to put, in the case of using sim stages, a compute shader-like architecture in the hands of artists, right? Or we've given you the ability to create a particle effect that's going to move for a very specific cinematic, scrolling over the landscape and dynamically avoiding obstacles that are falling in the way. All of this with pre-made modules. So where you take it is up to you, but the power is there and obtainable. Ultimately, it's about flexibility. Niagara lets you do things that just simply weren't possible in Cascade or other particle systems that have been developed. And that is why it is so exciting. Sequencer is one of our really exciting features that's had a lot of work done on it to really create a really optimal experience in editing animation. Now, the exciting thing about Sequencer is that its use cases are extremely varied. We can use it for in-game cinematics, but we can also use it to script our level. For example, a platform that moves that our player would have to jump on, or ropes that wiggle down from the roof that we could jump on itself. So it integrates into gameplay seamlessly. We can also blend our player camera into it at the tick of a button and create in-game cinematics for our narrative moments. But Sequencer is also being used for full-on animation studios today. And that's really exciting because our curve editor is actually that good. It's at that level where it's, competitive with other animation programs. And this is all within Engine. We're able to blend animations and blend animation slots as well as add gameplay events into Sequencer. Not only that, but we can record gameplay itself with Sequencer Recorder or Take Recorder and have that automatically propagate into Sequencer. So this is a really, really powerful tool. And when we talk about Sequencer, we can talk about Control Rig, which is Unreal's methodology for actually enabling us to create rigs inside the engine, okay? And because we're able to create rigs that support full forwards IK and backwards IK, we're able to adapt our animations that we might have from a mocap recording source or something like that and bake them into our IK solution, or drive IK on top of existing animations, which is really, really exciting. So we're actually able to access Control Rig and these rigs from our skeletal meshes inside Sequencer, meaning that we're able to create complex animations from within the editor itself. And so this could be baked out then as animations for in-game, meaning that you never need to touch another DCC for your animation. Or it can be used in an additive way where we take an existing animation and we apply IK over the top. For example, is maybe reaching out and grabbing a door handle. Another great example is, not even within Sequencer, but we can use Control Rig as a way of post-processing animation in a way. So we could have our walking animation, but then apply foot IK, right? That would adapt the position of the foot based on where the terrain, the way the terrain was working. So we'd get our foot locations in the right location. So we can drive procedural animations with Control Rig all within the editor, which is really, really exciting. Mesh reduction has to be one of the most simple to use tools and one of the most important and incredible for developers, especially when you're talking about cross-platform. What mesh reduction allows us to do is we're able to reduce the polygons on both static mesh and skeletal meshes. And we're able to essentially reduce the topology of an object based on how far it needs to be away. So that's generally called a LOD. But we're able to automate this process. So traditionally you do that in your DCC tool of choice, but the engine allows you to do it on the fly. So here we see a statue, and you can see as we move away, it's got quite bad overdraw because the mesh is too dense. It doesn't need to be that dense at that level, at that distance. So we're going to apply a LOD group, which is essentially an easy way to tell Unreal, hey, you're a large prop, do this sort of thing. And as we can see, we're now lodding as we need to. And that mesh is showing the right level of topology based on how far we are away. And that was one click of the button. And the reason I bring that up is that, yes, you can do this in your modeling tool. But when you have, say, 300 models to go across to optimize a whole game, and you can just select them all and run that process on them all at once, that is an incredible optimization that you can run to get your game running up to scratch. A huge feature. But then on top of that, we have a feature called hierarchical LODs, or hierarchical levels of details. And this takes the same concept of, as objects are further away, we're going to LOD them to a lower and lower resolution. But what about when they're quite far away and we're still paying for each individual draw call for that mesh? It's still there. Well, with our HLOD, we're able to combine all those low detail models into one model, into one mesh with one draw call, one material. So we're going to atlas all those textures together. And this is going to reduce our draw calls significantly, because we could have, say, 50, 100 objects in a cluster that gets reduced to 1. And when we get close to it, it switches out to that low level detail, 5 maybe for these objects. We get closer and closer, and all the way to LOD 0. It's high detail, all individual. So we lose nothing. We lose no visual fidelity, but we gain optimization. And what's better is that this process is optimized, as you can see here. I'm going to say this big chunk of temple is all going to be can be all one chunk. So I throw in my HLOD volume, and I just kind of say, yep, you're in there. Include all your overlapping actors that I'm going to overlap with. Then I'm going to open up the HLOD editor, and I'm just going to hit build. And this video is sped up, but now we have this HLOD generated. So we still have all our individual actors, but when we move out, you can see, boom, that whole thing is now one mesh, one draw call. We come in, individual meshes. Now this is incredibly powerful for optimizing large scenes. So why reduction tools help developers? Well, ultimately, all of this is about iteration time again. It's removing boring manual labor from your artists, and they will thank you. These one-click button solutions to optimize all your assets turns out are very much appreciated by the artist community. And if it's not topology you need to worry about, but draw calls, HLODs has you covered in that automated way. So you can really optimize your experiences very quickly. But generating LODs, of course, also really helps with cross-platform development, where we can say we wanted to say on a mobile, we've got a game, just say you've got this game and it's really popular and it runs on high-end computers and looks fantastic, also runs on low-end mobile devices, and you're constantly patching content, and you need to have a really rock-solid build pipeline. I don't know who's got a game like that. Couldn't be Epic Games, for instance, but then there's a great way to use LODs and levels of detail at a per device layer or layering. So within the engine, you'll see this little icon in a bunch of places, the little plus. And what it means is per profile options, or to give you per profile options, right? So what we're able to do is you'll see this mesh already has LODs, and we're able to say, hey, on mobile, use the minimum LOD of 2. Don't use a really high dense mesh. Don't use it. And then we can say, hey, screen size, change a bit sooner. We want to LOD faster on a mobile. We want to go to low quality faster. But we could individualize this. We could say, hey, on an iPhone or whatever we would need to. It all comes back to the device profile. And here you can see we can downscale a texture depending on the platform that we're actually using. So we can say on mobile, in this case, use half the resolution of this texture. And all that's built into the editor for you to build on cross-platform, all with the same content and the same pipeline, saving you time. So platform development, ultimately we have this philosophy that you implement once, but you build for many. And in the case of those static meshes and textures, you can see that. We just set up the options that we would like, and it's able to build out to all of those different platforms. And the way that works is we have cross compilers ready to go. For example, we have Clang for Linux. But other platform extensions are all supported via plugins. You can add in Xbox or PlayStation, whatever you need. But ultimately, you're all working within the same, you're going to be using the same shaders, the same materials, the same assets. So you build once in one area, you focus on your game, and then porting is handled by the engine itself. Unreal Engine also has inbuilt scalability settings. Now, this is great for using the editor if you're working on a machine, for instance, a mobile laptop that doesn't have the full performance to deliver the best quality for your scene. But it's also able to work at runtime. And what this means is that, how in video games where you can go to options, video, and then you have all the options available to tweak, how the game can look. Well, that's essentially our scalability system already built there for you. And this is fully customizable by editing the default scalability.ini, or you can just use it how we have it set up into these categories for low, medium, high, epic, and cinematic. And so all of this is built in, ready to use, and adjustable in Blueprint or C++. We also have the device profile window where we're able to customize how the engine is, all these different settings and quality variables for each platform. So we can really define how we want our experience to play on a mobile device versus a high-end PC versus a mid-end PC. And we can really dive in and define how we would like this to function and work. Additionally, when we're building on many platforms, a really useful feature is to have the platform stats available to us in the material node editor. So you can access this by going to Windows and then platform stats within the material node editor, and it will show you things like how many instructions you're using on all your different platforms, for example, PlayStation, Android, or DirectX SM5. And this is really good to understand, okay, yes, this material is working across all of our platforms, or no, actually, I'm going to have to change my approach. We are going to have a problem on, say, PlayStation, just to pick one randomly. And so obviously, it's better to find problems early than it is to find them late. And that's why we have platform stats. We also have a full AI system or ecosystem within the editor. So this includes a perception system, which can handle things like sight, hearing, touch, damage, prediction, and teams, friend or foe analysis, right? As well as a full behavior tree system, which I'll show you in a minute, that allows us to build modules that we're able to use in a behavior tree to build out really complex interaction. And behavior trees are great because we're able to reuse all these modules in a way to really maximize our behavior across many different, say, NPC types that are doing different behaviors. We also have an environmental query system, also called EQS. And EQS allows us to essentially query the geometry around us and make complex decisions. For example, I need to find cover. Okay, where is everyone with a gun? Well, I don't want to be around them. All right, well, where's a wall that's like at least so high? That's looking pretty good. Factoring all these things in, I'm going to dive over there. That's what EQS is. But keep in mind, EQS is so much more because we can use it at any stage, not just in an AI system, and I'll come back to that. But the best thing about EQS is it's completely asynchronous, which means that we can do this in the background and run really complex logic without causing a lot of lag or hitches. And we've got a full navigation system, and this works statically or dynamically. And what's great about that is that, with a dynamic navigation system, we're able to update the world around us and have the AI actually respond to that, open a door, a platform moves, etc., etc. All of these things can actually, update our nav mesh, and our AI will respond to the way we're changing the world around us, which is really fun. So I just wanted to show you an example of a behavior tree. And here we can see, basically we've got these cruel NPCs that are coming to get me. And we're coming through and they're working out, hey, am I close enough? If I am close enough, I'm going to slash out. If I don't have enough health, I'm going to run away. And we're able to build these behaviors very quickly. And this is plugging into our gameplay ability system as well. So the Action RPG is a great place where you can learn more about AI. So why is our AI toolset useful to developers? Well, it comes down to iteration time. Having a full perception system there ready to go that works with full debuggable visual guides available to you is incredible and will speed up your AI development tenfold. But then having behavior trees that enable you to reuse modular pieces of behavior in different ways, applying different parameters, is incredible in terms of using small decisions to make ultimately large and complex complete behavior. And EQS as well is not just for finding where cover is or something like that. It can be used for other tasks too. For example, spawning an item in the world. Where's the best spot to put this based on abstract logics? Additionally, we're able to spread latent AI work over multiple frames. And this is really great. This is inbuilt in the perception and EQS system, as well as the behavior tree being built on an event-driven framework, which means ultimately using all these things together, you're still going to end up with a very performant game, despite the use of strong and complex AI. The next one I wanted to talk about was Unreal Motion graphics, which is something really exciting for all the designers and UI developers in the crowd. So Unreal Motion graphics, or UMG, is built upon Slate, which is our C++ UI framework, which is fully cross-platform. And it essentially adds a what you see is what you get editor over the top of Slate, allowing us to run in design time our UIs and build up complex UIs that we can design, edit, and play back in the editor. And this is really, really fantastic because it means that longer the days where you'd have a long UX pitch that would happen, outside the editor, maybe in an Adobe product or some other fantastic software for iterating in design. But now if we have our assets, we can place them in Engine and start experimenting design concept directly in Engine and getting a sense of how is our UI going to work and how is it functionally going to work in the game. And the person who does this can also be the programmer and the animator. So this person's able to wear a lot of hats because the barrier to entry has become a lot lower with the what you see is what you get editor. And it's not really about, this being a resource problem that it solves, although that is true. It's actually more exciting because it enables this person to get more out of their creative pursuits. They know what they want to do and they're able to experiment and iterate more and achieve better UIs, which is what we're here to do. We're here to make better products. So here's an example of UMG, just going through a few different interfaces. And here we're going to quickly mock up a little game over screen. You can see how powerful UMG is, where we can put in different fonts, different anchors. Here we're anchoring it to the center of the screen. UMG has a lot of different cross-platform containers. For example, adding like a safe margin to deal with the way that TVs often have a bevel around them that will clip on, if you're ever developing on console, it's something that you need to really worry about. Well, all of these things are actually just built into UMG. And you'll see now I'm actually animating in UMG because it is a visual interface. And I'm able to use the timeline system, which will have animators really happy because it's a full curve system, and actually create an animation for this appearing super, super quickly and just bind any key that I need to get my result. And there it is. So you can see the power of UMG there. But additionally, now that we have UMG, we're able to make, we're able to make game UI. But what about editor UI? What about UI to help us develop a game? Well, that's what editor utility blueprints are. So there's two different kinds that are mostly used. You've got editor utility widgets, which can be for UMG, where you can actually design a visual interface, or you can have asset or scene editor utility widgets, which you can modify things that you're selecting or modify assets, maybe a mass rename tool. It depends on your production. But, with the power of editor utilities, we're able to generate our own visual tools and add it in to the Unreal interface. So here I'm going to make a very simple tool that's going to rotate any actors I have selected by a certain amount. And I've docked that into my Unreal window, and I can click rotate, nothing's going to happen. So we're going to add in some programming with blueprints very quickly. We get all the selected actors. We're going to set their rotation, and the rotation we're going to set is going to be their current rotation plus whatever we've put in this widget. And you can see how quick that you're able to build these tools. Now, this is a somewhat silly example. It might be useful to some projects. Like right now, I just want to rotate this rock between 10 and 90. And yeah, cool. I could probably get some nice variation. But you can see the power of a tool like this in your development pipelines widgets, which is really, really exciting. So Unreal has networking built in. We have a client-server model which supports both dedicated or listen. And you can get this going just by clicking how many players would you like in your Pi session. And you just put 2 and it will automatically connect a client and server architecture for you to test out your game with. Now, our RPCs support validation as well as multicast, replication of variables, rep notify, which is when a variable changes, letting the game know about that. Conditional replication, which is a really good way to optimize your networking, and it's all built in. Relevancy and rate limitation, quantization, and custom sterilization. So this is all really important when you're building out a large network game. And trust us, we know what we're talking about, because this is the same technology that's built into Fortnite and our other games, and in order to support huge player bases doing lots of complex activities, right? And it's also really easy. Within a blueprint, you can just see, like in this photograph, you can just say, hey, I would like this variable to replicate to, its owner, for instance. Or you've got an event there that has execute on all. And that means that it's now a multicast event that, will be spawning an emitter on everyone's computer. And really, our RPCs are as easy to use as that. We also have our network replication graph. And as I said, we make games, and the only way that we could see a game like Fortnite actually support that many players doing complex things is with our replication graph. So the way this kind of works is it allows programmers to bucket actors and control update frequency, right? And that means is we're optimizing the server CPU and bandwidth by essentially not replicating where we don't have to. For example, the green player there only needs to know what the players around it are doing, the players in its green area. It might need to know what's going on in those 4 tiles a little bit, but it certainly doesn't need to know anything outside of that. And that's the basic idea here. We don't replicate to clients if the characters are in stealth, for instance. We don't replicate inside of actors inside Fog of War. We grid the world and color through the grids if that doesn't overlap with a character's relevancy. So you can actually do all these different things to cut down the need to actually replicate at all, which is the best type of optimization when it comes to replication. So why does networking and our networking tools in UE4 help developers? Well, gameplay framework structured around our entire gameplay framework is actually structured around supporting multiplayer, which means that if you're using our gameplay framework, chances are it's going to be very easy to add multiplayer into your experience, depending on the scale of your project. And it reduces complexity for the programmer. The architecture is well defined and battle tested, as I was saying. There's a clear distinction between a dedicated and listen server and client, and this is all even in the blueprint layer. And there's many options exposed to make it easier to optimize, for example, relevancy, rate limitation, replication, and conditional overrides and things like this. See, our games are constantly being tested and improved at the network layer. We're pushing more and more out there, and we're seeing those benefits go back into the editor for you to use. Things like the replication graphic is a great example, but all of these improvements are coming in and helping out to make sure that your game is going to run fast on the network it is going to be deployed on. We also have extended reality built into the engine. And once again, we have experience here with our game Robo Recall, but the editor itself actually allows you to dive into VR and get work done. So it's deeply integrated into Unreal. And we now have OpenXR supported, which includes image-based variable rate shading or fixed foveated rendering, as well as we've just released a bunch of new VR and AR handheld templates for you to check out. So please do. Epic has recently acquired Rad Game Tools, which has added a whole arsenal to the engine, thanks to their amazing work. So with Rad Oodle tools, such as Oodle data compression, we now have the fastest and highest ratio of compression for game data. This is now enabled by default in Unreal 4.27. We have Oodle texture compression, which is 2 to 3 times smaller than other encoders, which is incredible. And Oodle network compression, which is a solution for real-time compression of network traffic. So not only do we have all our network profiling tools and systems to optimize network data, but we have a network compression system that reduces all the data we're sending at the tick of a button. We also have Rad Bink Video. So Bink Video has been very popular video codec for video games for a long time, and now it comes standard with Unreal Engine. So Bink is up to 8 to 6 times less memory and 10 times faster than other video codecs. And this is really important because playback can be incredibly, heavy on devices, especially now that some games are pushing for 4K video playback. that can now be offloaded onto the GPU's compute shader for even faster performance. So Big Video is a major feature for Unreal Engine. Localization is another key feature of the engine that is super critical. Not only do we want to be cross-platform, but of course we want to be cross-cultural. And localization enables us to do that. But localization can be a real pain, especially if you're tackling it at the end of the project. Now, Unreal's localization system fully integrates with C++ and Blueprint, and we've got a full localization dashboard to help you work and get your localization done. The tools that we've developed are not only useful for just setting up basic localization, just say for an asset, for a graphic, for text, but also for supporting the way you work, for supporting, people who work with localization who want to come into the project and they've got all this information they need to translate. And, the dashboard and all the tools that we have, like string tables, enable you to actually work at scale over a large project and get it done on time and accurately. I wanted to talk about all the different profiling available in Unreal. We've got stat groups where you can profile your own data and programming. We've got, a GPU profile, a network profiler, but with Unreal Insights, it integrates all of these things into one graph, one flame graph where we can see it all happening at the same time. And this is amazing because we can see how different bottlenecks might be affecting one another. Not only that, we can map to game events and actually work out exactly what's going on in our game at a frame at any time. This is an incredible tool for networking, for profiling that covers the CPU, the GPU, I/O, load times, and network all at once. And it can work remotely. So you can send this data, say, from an Android or to your computer and monitor that data live, which is incredibly powerful because the amount of data we're actually sending, we don't want to potentially be recording that locally. But it's worth noting, if we need to, we can. So one of the issues you run into when you're building a cross-platform project is the fact that you have a lot of different devices that you need to make sure that your game is working on. And that's where Gauntlet comes in. So Gauntlet is a framework for testing that is able to deploy automatically to different devices. So, you can use the same Gauntlet script to deploy to your PlayStation, to your iOS, to your Android, and then it's able to run tests on those devices. A great example would be, like opening up your maps, making sure they open, making sure their load times are appropriate and their FPS, and then returning those results back to the central computer that kicked off the Gauntlet tests. So that's Gauntlet and is essential for scaling out your development when you're working with, 1 to 2 or 3 or 4 different platforms or more. Oh, and that's it. We did it, everyone. So there's a lot more features to discover inside of the Unreal Engine. That's all I had time for today. But you'll learn more and more about the engine as you start experimenting with it. And of course, from learning from all of our great talks today. But another great place to learn, of course, is through training. And Arvind here is going to now take us through the next steps if you're interested in getting Unreal Engine training. So thank you very much. And here's Arvind.
All right. Thank you, Jack. We have an exciting lineup of talks where we'll go deeper into a number of topics touched upon by Samir, Saishri, and Jack in our power-packed IGDC schedule. We have Dean plowing his way through as many quick tips and tricks as you can to help you save time and create great projects. We have an exciting fundraising panel featuring Abbas Shah from Studio Sira. We have Ninad Bhagwat from All Star Games, Nikhil Malankar from Gameon, and Vamshi Reddy from Kalari Capital. We have Sean Palomino, who's going to be talking about Epic Game Store and how you can grow the business using the Epic Game Store, and some very deeply technical talks from our developers from Gameloft, Eon Sparks, and Streamline. And that's just day one. On day two, I'll be back to talk about MetaHumans, Quixel, and the Epic Online Services. Chris Murphy will be back for this IGDC to give a guided tour on Unreal Engine 5, which I'm sure we're all very excited about. In parallel, Alex is also going to be talking about the power of Unreal Engine's editor utility blueprints and help you create your own tools without writing a single line of code, followed by even more deeply technical developer talks by Holy Cow, AirMac, and Quicksand. Now, if you're excited by all of the things that we've been showing right now and you're like yearning to get your hands dirty with Unreal Engine and you want to learn how to use the editor, we are providing free instructor-led training in India and Southeast Asia through our Unreal authorized trainers. So if you're interested, do sign up for the training by either scanning this QR code or by visiting that URL that you can see right down there. So with that, thank you all for listening and hope you all have a fantastic IGDC 2021.